Oh my god.
So
We are live.
you should now be seeing
And the
two
match
players on
timer
the
is
screen.
working.
That's unexpected.
Yeah.
So on the left side, you should see David Lance. He's drawing his card. Local to Columbus, pretty regular survival player. He actually won the last TSI, which was TSI Diaper Party, back in September.
Right.
Lori is looks like she's here we go. She's on Eldrazi.
Wow, you can identify that?
I'm very good at magic.
I'm impressed.
So yeah, she's on Eldrazi. It looks like colorless Eldrazi, but we'll find out. She, believe, drove down from Chicago last night. She came down with Kevin Poinish and Jaco.
Yeah, I think it's really impressive how many people travel for these events.
Yeah.
We have people from Colorado here.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's farther from Colorado, but there's a decent Colorado contingent.
that's right. Yeah, we have several players from Colorado, several players from the Chicago area, but a couple players from Michigan.
Yeah. It's a good crew.
Josh Chappell in
Josh
the background, our co-host on Serious Vintage.
Here from Colorado. Shuffling up. Do you have any expectations for this match, Nat?
I'm not sure. So I don't. I have no idea how the matchup between Survival, which I expect David is on, and Eldrazi goes. I would expect that Eldrazi are generally larger than the creatures in Survival, and as a result, if Lori can stick more of her creatures and destroy some of David's lands, which are often not prevalent in Survival, then she can probably do pretty well. But David is a well-experienced Survival player, and I expect that he'll do as well as anyone can. Let's see. I can't confirm David's hand. I think that was Pikemen, and that's not a vintage card. So
Wait,
it's probably not.
I was like, Pikeman, really?
That's
Making an appearance?
It's a 2-drop 1/1 with first strike. It's a solid card. Let's see. Yeah, I think that Lori is on the powerless Jaco Eldrazi version. I think it looks like colorless. I know I saw. No, she definitely has a bunch of Ghost Quarters and Strip Mine. Yeah, David probably on Survival. That's a Bazaar there. I don't expect him to be on Dredge. There's a Survival in his hand, so that's also a good start. And I think he drew Lotus.
That seems like a pretty good pull.
Yeah, I think we'll do some stuff here. He's got a Vengevine in the graveyard.
This all seems like a really good start.
Yeah, if you're going to play Survival against Eldrazi, that's the way to go.
Oh, Strip Mine takes
got
out
worse.
the
It
Bazaar.
got worse.
Yeah, that's seems all right.
Let's see.
Does he need the Bazaar on board to keep going, or does what he already
So
have?
Survival sort of works as a 2 side-by-side engine deck. So it's got the Bazaar engine and then the Survival engine, both of which are pretty good. Mm-hmm. He already has a Vengevine in the graveyard. He'll be able to get that out. That'll be a 4/3. I think Bazaar would be helpful for him to get other things like Hollow Ones into play, and certainly smaller things like Basking Root Wallows. But we'll see.
If he's pulled the Lotus, though, he's being very cagey about it. It must not be.
If he pulled the Lotus and she played Chalice at 0, I think that's very good for her.
Oh. Yeah, that wire was covering up the Chalice for 0 for me.
We can try and
It's
move
cool.
this around.
Oh, no!
It's all right. We'll adjust. Look,
All right.
I can see where it's going.
Oh,
Here.
yeah, you can.
That
That's
actually made it
awesome.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys can't actually see, but I'm moving cameras around and stuff. It's gotten very technologically advanced. Let's see. So I'm kind of saddened, in fact, that she didn't have a 2-drop off of the Ancient Tomb there, but that's all right. Also, did she?
What are we reading?
That's a Deathray Shaman.
Ah, yes. The cheapest planeswalker
He's
in Magic.
the littlest planeswalker. I think he and Goblin Welder should form a band.
That should give him the mana that he needs to start getting threats
I
out.
have to ask, did Lori play 2 things on her last turn?
I was wondering whether we had missed a turn, whether he had he didn't have a land drop, and we just skipped back and forth quickly. That's my suspicion.
That could be. So he's got Lori now has 4 mana in play. I don't remember which of the Eldrazi lands that one is, but it is definitely effectively 2 mana. So I would kind of expect something like a Thought-Knot Seer here. Let's hope. That's a thing.
That is
it's
definitely
not a Thought-Knot Seer.
Definitely a thing.
That would be an Eldrazi Mimic.
I do not know what an Eldrazi Mimic is. Can you define it for me?
Sure, an Eldrazi Mimic is a 2/1, and when you play another colorless creature, you can make it have the power and toughness of that creature until the end of the turn.
Oh, fancy.
So you play that, and then you play a Thought-Knot Seer or whatever, and it gets bigger for a turn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like effective haste. So David has another Bazaar back online. He's going to be removing some land and getting some mana. He's got 2 mana and survival.
10 survival. This is both of those engines that you were speaking of.
That's right. We are online. So survival takes a green mana to actually use, and you discard a creature and can get another creature. It's very exciting.
You sound excited.
It's cool.
So, does she have outs here that she can work with on her turn, or is she going to be...
this isn't a combo win necessarily. It's really more of a value game. Like his best play is going to be to ramp up into a bunch of Vengevines or figure out how to get Hollow Ones in play. I don't think he's necessarily at that point yet. He needs.
But all those are going to be big dudes that she needs to have an out for.
Right, and her, like I said, her big dudes are bigger. Comparable.
Yeah.
So that's a Matter Reshaper. It's a 3/2 already, and if that dies, she potentially gets another permanent off the top of her deck. So I would expect her to begin the beats. This will be.
It's beats time.
First blood.
We're going into the red zone.
First blood, except for your own fetch lands and stuff. We unfortunately don't have very good sense of player's life total. I'm not sure. That looks like a Warping Whale. Yes, she has a Warping Whale and a Null Rod.
Do you want to remind our viewers what Warping Whale does? I've seen you blow someone out in comical fashion with one.
It was very good. Warping Whale counters a sorcery spell for 1. It also makes a 1/1 Eldrazi Scion token, which can be sacrificed for mana, and gives a creature -1/-1, or kills something with power and toughness 1 or less. That's a Basking Rootwalla. He's gonna discard Basking Rootwalla, put it into play. He's gonna discard the Basking Rootwalla to the survival of the fittest, get a creature from that, and then tutor for another creature. He can chain Basking Rootwallas to get bigger things. So he's gonna play multiple things and then put Hollow One into play.
That seems pretty fancy.
Yeah. I can't explain not Warping Whaling the Deathrite Shaman. I kind of expected. Maybe it's just a player error.
Deathrite Shaman is really good and provides an extreme amount of value the longer he is on the table.
Correct.
That guy is redonkulous.
Right. So David definitely has an upper hand here. So he's got 2 Vengevines, which are 4/3s, a Hollow One, which is like a 4/4, and then some small dudes. Lori could trade here. The Matter Reshaper for the Vengevine, and effectively either draw a card or play a permanent.
Do you think that's a solid move?
I don't know. You have to kind of remember that a lot of the players here at the Hazard Serious and other Team Serious Invitationals, we have a wide variety of player skill levels. So some people, like David Lance, for example, are very good. Lori is actually pretty new to Magic. I think she has learned in the past couple years.
And some of us just never play, so we are
Right,
real rusty and bad.
some of it's not exactly a skill thing, but just a practice thing. Lori, for example, probably plays much more than either of us.
I would assume.
Yes.
More than once in the past 3 years.
Yeah, right.
Though I actually did play in a work league for War of the Spark, in which I literally forgot that double blocking was a thing that existed in Magic.
It's a hard thing to remember.
Yeah, it's
Double
tough.
blocking is hard.
Well, I mean, it doesn't come up in Vintage very often, so...
Look at how many creatures are
Yeah,
on board. You could definitely
this is
double block
entirely
here.
unfamiliar to me. There are a lot of dudes.
So David showing Lori the Wonder in his graveyard, which gives all of his creatures flying. She's in big trouble here. I think this might be lethal if he gets to go
That
back to his turn.
seems rough.
Yeah. We're going to Warping Whale.
Now we're going to Warping Whale.
Yeah. So he's pointing out the... David is a very kind opponent in pointing out that the Warping Whale could also kill the Deathrite Shaman, rather than the Basking Rootwalla. So... we learn things. But I think this is David
that
has
was
won the
game.
game and is going to game 2.
So that must have been a post-game discussion about the use of the Warping Whale.
She may have showed him the Warping Whale, and he said, "Oh, you could have used that on my Deathrite Shaman. It would have been better served." Yeah, I mean, there's lots of new cards, and all of them are.
I think that David was specifically weak that game after the first turn strip on his Bazaar.
Except that he had a second Bazaar.
And then, he missed that land drop on turn 2.
Yeah.
So that was a position where he was behind in mana, and she had an opportunity there to take control of the game, and especially if that Deathrite hadn't been around to sort of give him the leg up to double for the second.
It gave him the second mana to play,
which was critical
to play the survival. So that was actually really important.
Yeah.
So, yeah, errors happen. It's only round 1.
Sure.
You can come out of this hole.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Survival always seems like a nice pile of mishmash stuff to me. I would assume David has some extra removal that he'll bring in against Lori. I don't know if he's got extra swords and things like that. Lori probably would consider bringing in something like Leyline of the Void. I would assume she's playing a heavy... I would assume she's playing the 8 Leyline sideboard, which is 8 Leylines of the Void and 8 Leylines of Singularity. Obviously, the Leylines of Singularity aren't great here.
Mm-hmm. How much does a Leyline of the Void shut down his engines? Obviously, you're losing out on the cards you pitched to Bazaar.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't think it's game over for him. He can still survival and get bigger creatures, and he can still discard cards to put Hollow One into play. He discards them; they just don't go anywhere.
They still count as discarding, despite the fact that they don't reach the graveyard.
Hollow One's still a threat. Vengevine, not as much. Obviously, it kind of shuts off Deathrite Shaman as a mana source.
Right.
It shuts off Deathrite from half of its resources.
You can still pull from your opponent's graveyard.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Let's see.
What are we seeing?
Nothing. We're actually still just seeing us. I was going to... Let's see. Is this... Nope. Sorry, I'm figuring out all of the little buttons and things that Jimmy
has made so many buttons.
Aha.
Oh,
Look at us.
Look at us. Q versus 0. Well done.
All right, we're going to go back to the game cam here. And we've reset the game clock. It's actually about 37 minutes.
How do we not reset that game clock when we make that transition?
Jimmy was like, just don't. I was like, oh, that's silly. So, not actually a 50-minute game clock on this. We're
breaking the rules.
We're really at about 36, 35 minutes.
Do we expect traditional team serious events where we go on into turns long after 50 minutes?
I would not expect that. I certainly hope not.
Twan is here.
Twan is here.
We don't know what he's playing, though.
And Twan probably hasn't played Vintage in a while, so he might be out of practice and slow.
He's probably playing Tog.
We do have some notoriously slow players in Team Serious, and it's especially difficult as people get drunker.
Yeah.
There's a fair amount of drinking here. I've had a beer. It was before noon, but I should probably get another one.
Yeah, that was why I got a drink before we started.
Jeff, a notorious teetotaler.
Yeah, I'm drinking a Coke Zero.
Yeah. Jeff
This was shown earlier on the
Jeff,
stream.
as far as I know, has one drink a year at Gen Con.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And even that might be a mistake.
Yeah, it's probably a mistake. So thanks everyone for coming out. We're going into Game 2 of the Team Serious Hazard Invitational 5. This is round 1 still. You're listening to Nat Mose and my co-host Jeff Mose. We are also the hosts, well, two of the hosts of Serious Vintage, the podcast, which you can listen to on eternalcentral.com.
Quick plug.
That's us. Quick plug. We don't like lengthy plugs.
We're hoping to record a new episode probably in the next week, which would mean that I should have it edited and up probably within the next month.
Yeah, things have slowed down a little in the podcast game for us.
There's a lot of real life going on.
A lot of real life
for everybody.
My wife had a baby. She was our last guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
And Jeff bought a plane, so it's just real life all over the place.
Let's not talk about that.
That's an airplane. He's not trading in Magic the Gathering properties. Thanks for laughing at that. I don't think anyone else would.
That was a real stretch.
It was quite a stretch. I mean, people could afford something like Olgrotha, right? It's not the best plane.
We all know that the only plane for me is Chandelar.
So, Lori is looking at her opening hand.
How does it look?
Oh, I feel like it's got not enough lands. I'm not seeing. There's a couple.
If you crane your head further around that side of the monitor, do you get a better angle on the cards?
I do.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
no one can see me craning my head, so I'm fine to do it.
I did.
She's got some big creatures. She didn't
But
like
not
it.
good enough.
I think it was a wasteland and one of the 2-mana lands, so that's probably a throwback. We'd have to see what happens. I hope she gets a better hand. I feel like the new Mulligan rules are very helpful for Vintage. I don't know how well Eldrazi takes advantage of them.
Yeah, I would say, like, having played a little bit under London Mulligan, and then we had an event that was non-London Mulligan, and going back to Paris felt just a lot worse.
Yeah,
like,
you never want to get taken to Paris.
You do not. I would like to go to London and stay in London for the time being.
Sure, yeah. I think it makes for a very aggressive game. There are a lot of decks that can take a lot of advantage of that.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I think it feels good as a player.
Oh, yeah.
And sure, like, it's a question of how much you or your opponent is getting out of it, but I think it just feels like it makes for a better game. Feels like it makes those mulligans less crushing.
Yeah, it's... we have a question in the chat here. What's the most questionable card you've played recently? He played Murderous Rider in Legacy. That's basically a removal spell on one side and a creature on the other.
Oh, okay.
You play the removal spell, and then later you can play the creature.
Wow. I haven't played Magic recently,
Fair enough.
so I don't think I can answer that question.
I played a Demonic Consultation in Belcher recently, and that card's restricted, so it's not questionable at all.
Yeah, I think Demonic Consultation is insane, and I love that card.
Yeah.
A very quick way, I think, to get me like back and active in Vintage and like theory crafting. If you unrestrict Demonic Consultation, I will do all kinds of things with that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't actually recommend that course of action, but it would make me a little bit happy.
It was interesting. I saw, and I don't mean to name drop here, but I saw that Rich Shea at one point said that Demonic Consultation was, quote, probably safe to unrestrict. And he has since retracted that, which I think is too bad. I think that was in the wake of Thassa's Oracle being printed, but I feel like it wasn't remotely unrestrictable even before that. I mean, except that I want like 20 cards unrestricted.
Is the Mana Consultation on Unrestrict 21?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was when Rich said it was safe because he said it was safe.
That's a bad metric.
Yeah. Well, that was that was spite. It was a little bit of spite.
I like you trying to just like worm your way around this one.
No, it was spite. And I think realistically, I would not unrestrict tutors in unrestrict 20, just because I feel like it's already like you're banking on the consistency already. Like let's
Right.
not have more tutors than we need.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
So
As an arbitrary.
right. So Lori on the play has opened with Ancient Tomb and nothing, and David has Bizarred and
Ouch.
David kept a hand of 7, and Lori I think went down to 5 and did not go beyond that.
And it's not like in survival you're like banking on Bazaar. It's just a really handy.
Right. Well, like
piece
I said,
of aggression
there are
have.
2 engines in that deck. Bazaar is one of them, and it gets Hollow One into play like so.
Like so.
So he's got a 4/4 for free. I mean, at the cost of discarding 2 Moxes and a land. So
That is a lot of mana.
She potentially would recognize here that he is mana heavy, and I think getting rid of the Bazaar is a good play. I mean, she still has to get a creature.
Yeah,
on
it does
board,
unfortunately put
otherwise-
her behind.
Yeah,
Like, that's one of those like he's ahead in tempo, so she can slow him down, but he's still
Right.
got power on the board, ready to
Yeah,
go.
and I also thought he had Lotus in hand. He doesn't feel like he needs it, so it's a card to pitch to a Bazaar.
Are you just imagining that he has Lotus in hand at all times?
This person here, not me, which is interesting. If I say like not me said it was. Anyway, someone else also saw Lotus. I thought it was Lotus. I thought it was a proxy Lotus, but maybe I'm wrong. So Lori now has 4 mana in play, and I think that's a Thought Nazi.
Stuff coming out.
And Whump. So that's Thought Not Seer. That's a 4/4 that will remove cards from his hand. See, is that not a Lotus there?
That does look
that one
Lotusy.
right there. I think it's a little Lotusy. So I think she's got, is that Brainstorm? No. I don't know what that is. Oh, is that the thing that counters colorless spells? And that's that thing, oh man. Sorry, some of these cards are...
I'm really gonna enjoy just constant card speculation
Yeah.
this entire stream.
Well, I think he's got Pikemen in his hand again, and I think
Got what?
Taking the Pikemen.
What?
Yeah, taking the 1/1 first striker is probably a good play here. Once upon a time.
Once upon a time.
Oh yeah, I guess that is Once Upon a Time. All right, I can see it. Good ID. Good ID. That makes sense. So she can now trade with the Hollow One there, which I think is
That seems solid.
that's good for her, except that he gets to draw a card.
Oh, right.
That's the benefit, or the drawback on Thought Knots here is that you take a card, you give a card. So she's...
I mean, she does have some life to spare.
Yeah, well, she's taken 8 at this point because she didn't block.
Yeah.
So she's down to...
Plus, she's
at
taken
least-
2 Ancient Tomb
Right, she's down to
hit
10.
damage.
So I think he's got to... She has to put blockers out, and he's got to put bigger creatures out.
Well, it also, yeah, as he's doing now, he can start eating things with Deathrite, and if they get into a standstill, he can win the game based on
Right.
Deathrite
Yeah.
shocks.
Yep. So he is hard casting Once Upon a Time here. He's looking for... I would kind of guess he's looking for another mana, but perhaps not.
Is that a common inclusion in Survival
I would
at this point?
think it's new, partly because it can go find Bazaar.
Oh, okay.
On your turn 1, you can find a Bazaar.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
And, I mean, it already kind of skips on land, and... or it already seems like it skips on land, partly because they use Bazaar and discard lands. So, you know, you can help get an extra land or creature. You obviously have a lot of creatures. So he did get another Hollow One there. He is probably going to end up discarding some cards and getting a Hollow One at some point. He plans. So
That's getting a lot of dudes on board. There's a lot of aggression there.
Well, I mean, 2 of them are very small.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets a second hollow one, that's two 4/4s,
Yeah.
and
Like
that's
I
right, it's nothing to sneeze
Right,
at.
like I said, she's got to be careful with her mana because the Ancient Tomb will eventually be a problem. In fact, I would call it a problem.
It's a
now.
problem already, yeah.
That sort of looks like a Reality Shaper, which is solid. That's a 5/5 haste.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that she could use to turn this around. Because
She has another Thought Not Seer in hand, which is good for her. I think she could get rid of a card and then have a blocker. I think it would be worth trading with the hollow one if you get rid of the other one. Yeah, 5/5 blocker is big game. Big. Dude, I think
can be killed by big game hunter.
It's very accurate. It's very accurate. You heard it here first. You know, I wondered. So Andy Probasco was playing Death Shadow Survival at the last. Sorry, it was the TSI The Land, which was in May, April, whatever. And I think he had a big game hunter in his deck.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Because he was playing black. This is
right.
I think David is only playing black one Bayou probably to get the activations on the Deathrite Shaman. So she got rid of the hollow one there, and could potentially. So that's the Matter Shaper. She could potentially trade with the hollow one and allow him to draw a card. And see
so is that two Thought Knots and Reality Shaper?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, I think if she does get a 5/5 on board, she's in decent shape. We'll see what happens. He's gonna attack. We'll see what happens if they trade. She could potentially throw the Reality Shaper in front of it, and then she gets the card and he doesn't. The other option would be to trade with the Thought Not Seer, then he gets a card, but she's gotten rid of the hollow one, which is a problem for her. Hollow ones don't really come back. It's not a Ventron, so
once you kill them, they're dead. It's a
theoretically. I mean, who knows what happens here?
Nothing's ever really dead. Yeah, there's way too much creature combat.
Yeah, there's a lot of thinking. Did she take it? Did she take the damage? She would be at 6. Yeah. She'd be at 4.
Must have.
So he's got. I think that's an Endless one and a Reality Smasher in hand. I think.
Well, I mean, if she thinks she can stabilize the game, your life total doesn't matter until it's 0.
Right. She's absolutely right. She has to worry about that Deathrite Shaman. Yes, that's what David's pointing out to her. Again,
what's the item there?
Well, she was going to play a card and tap her Ancient Tomb, which would
put her down to 2.
Which would put her at 2 and definitely in range of the Deathrite Shaman. She's currently 2 activations away from death, I think. So she could be in trouble. I honestly forgot about the Deathrite Shaman, but David obviously.
How many sorceries or instants are available in graveyards to eat?
He's got. David has 1 because he played the Once Upon a Time, and I think he's got land, mox, land.
Yeah.
So I think he just has the 1.
So that he's short of things to deal damage with.
So she played a 4/4 Endless one, assuming that she tapped the other thing and has the Ancient Tomb she's not going to use for the rest of the game. David is taking the damage, and I hey, we have lots of courage here at the TSI, so she's attacking.
You got to end the game.
Yeah, I don't. Your options in Eldrazi are kind of limited, and one of those options is flipping over tables. So
you can try and control the game, or
so the idea at the end of Lori's turn, David has used the Deathrite Shaman and put her to 2, and I think he can swing out with everything and
yep,
he'll win the game.
Yeah, it's game.
So that's game.